Hey, this is Fate 212. I'm Nafka, and tonight we're taking a look at Dropzone Commander. Kind of a brief overview and kind of what the game is, what it's about. The game is a 10 millimeter scale war game. Obviously, this one is it takes a lot of it takes place in urban settings. The fluff sits you at the humanity at the 27th century, where mankind has been hit by the scourge and lost a lot of its planets and whatnot. I'm not going to go into the detail of the background and history. I'm going to get right into the game here. So what I have here is I have the UCM, the United Colonies of Mankind. Um, I've got 3 battle groups here. This is the starter set. I've got some anti-air, some tanks, and my infantry groups here. And those are 3 separate battle groups. Battle groups are important in this game. That kind of designate which groups are moving together. So in this game, this will be a skirmish-sized game. It's only about 600 points in this with the starter set. Now, what we're looking at here is we have 3 objectives. Now, in a bigger game, there would be more objectives in different places, but this is a very standard kind of demo-esque game. The goal here is to get in, find the objectives in these buildings. To do that, our infantry will have to enter the buildings and oftentimes fight fight in close quarter combat inside the buildings to pull the objectives out. But anyhow, the goal is to find the objectives and extract them. If you can extract an objective, they're 2 points apiece. If you only hold an objective, they are worth 1 point. So that's the goal. Now the game is done. When you start the game, the very first thing that you do is you roll for initiative, and you'll be doing this every single round. It's all with D6s. If you roll a 6 on initiative, you automatically win. You do add your commander's value to the die roll, but it's a natural 6 that you automatically win. If both people win, hey, the highest commander wins, and if not, I think you re-roll. So what you do is, you basically, if you win no matter what, if you win the die roll, you draw cards. You can only hold as many cards as the level of your commander. In this case, we're just going to assume 2. Now what the cards do is they add extra tactical advantages that you may be able to pull out and hopefully, sometimes they're things that you find on the battlefield. Sometimes there are things like stopping your enemy from retreating or help in targeting, and that also includes you being within the sphere of influence of your commander. And of course that depends on where he's at and the level. So anyhow, the game is done by you move a single battle group at a time. And in this case, I'm going to show you how that works. Now this is a medium a Condor dropship, and I am going to move it in 12 inches. All measuring is done from the center of the model, or from the stem of this one. So that means on these tanks, you're measuring from the center of the model, just from the center to the center. I'm going to put it over there for ease of measuring. Grab my little measuring device. Deployment is 3 inches, plus the tank can still move half of its movement while deploying. Now, I didn't mention that the Condor dropship is moving. I just overmoved it. It can only move 9 inches. The Condor dropship has a movement value of 18 inches. So when it's going to deploy, it can only go half its distance. Then I get 3 inches of deployment and half of the tank movement, which is a total of 5 inches measuring here. So approximately right there, which is good enough for now. Now these tanks are all part of a squad, even though each one is technically its own unit. they have a standard coherency, which means they have to be within 3 inches of each other. My roads are not lined up. So I'm just going to deploy them. Oops. Deploy them on the road there. So that would be, that battle group is now moved on and done. My opponent, who did not win the initiative, would then move his first battle group onto the board. Now we're moving onto the board. That is when you start the game, there is usually oftentimes a deployment zone. There is not in this mission. And if not, they are put in readiness, which means they move on first round. And there is also reserve. Reserve means that you roll to come on starting round 2, and you come in on a 2+. So good chances of coming in, but not 100% reliable. After my opponent would move, I would now get to react to him. Now it should be said that if you do win the die roll, you can always choose to put your initiative at 1. There's some tactical advantages to this, say, on a big board, hey, where's my opponent going? And if you're playing, 3 or 4 opponents, then it might also be wise. The game really handles more opponents all playing against each other very well, by the way. So this dropship could also go 9 inches. These would be my anti-air. And they get the exact same level of movement here. So I'm going to put these anti-air tanks. I don't remember the names of all the vehicles right now. I imagine I will as I play more and more of the game. So I get them all on the road. The Condor dropships have come in. Now, then my opponent obviously would take his next turn. And then I have another ship here. And I'm going to bring in, and you know what, just for sake of argument, I'm not going to deploy anything, but I'm going to fly up here and get in position to deploy for our next turn. So that would be basically round 1. It can go pretty fast. The games so far have taken about an hour and a half when I'm not explaining any, we're not going over the rules a lot. So that would be round 1. Beginning of round 2, you go back to the initiative. You re-roll the dice. If you don't want your cards, say, hey, I don't like this card. If I have a commander of level 2, I can hold 2 cards in my hand. So I can draw 1 more card. And it's actually a pretty good card. But so anyhow, that would be my hand. And if I had won the initiative roll, I would now be moving. So 6. And I'm just going to approximate here my movement. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my drop ship 9 inches out. And now, once again, my deployment, I get 3 inches. So the first APC is going to come out 3 inches. And up to this building, which I had knocked silly. And you always measure. Now these things get 3 inches deployment plus 3 inches of movement. So I got a lot of movement here on these APCs. So I'm going to hide him behind that building. And I'm going to deploy 3 guys directly into that building. So these guys are entering the building. So I'm going to put them up here on top. And then by the same token, the other one that this is carrying is going to go 6 inches over here and deploy a squad of 3 bases into this building here. Now what's cool is these guys come with their rifles. They also, each one has a missile launcher in there. These are the colonial legions or colonial soldiers. So they can actually fire their missile launcher from the buildings once they're in. Right now they're considered to be in the lobby, but the next round they can start searching and of course go to the walls and start shooting out of them. Of course, they can be targeted back, but you're very much safer inside of a building than anywhere else. So with that being said, I had deployed into both buildings, and we'll say these are Scourge. They come up here, come rushing out, and we'll put one behind. These are Scourge tanks. They have no anti-air, so they cannot target my skimmer or my dropship. But if my APCs were out, they would be able to blow them to bits, and I'd be praying that they survive. My APCs have 2 damage points, so they have to take 2, but a single shot can actually do 2 damage points, so it's pretty risky to have them out there. Tanks, these are small tanks. They generally have 1 damage point each. The Condor dropships have 3. So, but anyhow, regardless, these guys really cannot hurt anything. So the point of view is, why are they out there? Good question. They can move. If I was to move, now that would be one battle group moved. Now if it was my turn again, I'd move this battle group. Most vehicles have a move and fire, or most weapons have a move and fire number, which means they can only move this far and fire. However, on a lot of these tanks, they can move 4, and they can, their move fire value is also 4 for the gun. I am on a road, which means if I wanted to move an extra 2 inches, I could. However, I'm not going to, because I would not be able to fire the AA guns. Now, these AA guns, I'm not going to fire them, but instead I'm going to hold action on them, because this way, these guns have an 18-inch range, and I can do what's called reaction fire. So if any dropship comes within line of sight or passes through it, the line of sight down these alleyways, I can reaction fire. Now it's a -2 penalty on my accuracy to do that. However, it's great for knocking out ships and stopping things from coming in. So that being said, I'm going to put some bad guys over on this side, because I need to be able to shoot at something. I want to show you how shooting is done just briefly. And we're almost done here, but I just kind of want to show you a little bit of what's going on. So here's my tanks. Like I said, when you move a battle group, you move, this is a squad of 3. This is it's transport. But because of the same battle group, I get to move these guys and then these guys. You can shoot and then move, or you can move and then shoot. You can even do something like this. These guys can move into range of the dropship to get picked up. The dropship can move 9, and then they can deploy again. A transport gets up to 2 embarks or disembarks per round. However, if I did disembark, once you disembark, you cannot shoot. So that would not be a very wise thing to do here. But instead, what we're going to do is we're going to shoot at these tanks. These are AA tanks. And we're going to shoot at them, and I'm going to show you how that works a little bit. Now, these tanks have an accuracy of 2+. That's what they normally require to hit. These, however, are skimmers. They give you a -2 penalty. That means I need 4s to hit them. So what I would do is I would pick my targets. Each one can fire at a separate target, but these 2 are going to fire at this one. This guy is going to fire at this one. And the reason being is because the guy in the back, he's hull down, and being hull down is kind of a pain in the butt. It makes him harder to hit. And I already have a -2 penalty because they're skimmers. So the plan would be to, hey, knock a couple of these out and really get the advantage on them. So these would require 4s to hit. So I'm going to roll for those 2 hit that guy first. Hey, there's nothing. I got at least hit once. All right, I hit the 1. Hit roll a 4. So this guy here, shooting at that one, hit. Now, in Warhammer 40k, if you have the same, if the strength and the toughness equal each other, it's a 4+ to wound. In Dropzone Commander, if the same strength of the weapon, which is called energy level, versus the armor level, if they're the same, it's a 5+. This is a strength 10 railgun against an armored 8 skimmer, which means I would need a 3+ to damage it. So I would roll, and hey, I rolled a 4. This thing has 1 damage point. It is now destroyed. So my tanks with their railguns destroyed one skimmer. Now this guy, I hadn't moved yet, but now I can move him. And I'm going to get him out of the way, assuming that those, because I know that their range on their gun is 9, so I'm probably out of range. Remember, you measure from the center of the model to the center of the model. So I'm going to move out of their range so that I don't get my dropship shot down from those things moving in to fire at it. AA guns are particularly nasty against dropships, so it's always a good idea to knock them suckers out if you get a chance. So anyway, that gives you an idea of what's going on, how shooting's done briefly, how movement's done briefly. Now let's move to round 2. Now on round 2, these guys are in the building. And what they're going to do, this is a normal sized building. This is a large one. And these guys are going to move to the walls. And they're going to search. So first thing you do is you search. I would need a 5+ to be able to locate the objective. And I rolled a 4. Now, that means this round they did not find it. Next round, it's reduced by 1 until you get to 2s, and then it stays at 2+. So this round a 5+, next round it would be a 4+. They did not find the objective. However, they have missile launchers. So they are going to shoot those missile launchers, because it's the only thing that can hurt. We're going to shoot 2 at that tank and 1 at that tank, just to see if we can knock something out. They need 3s to hit, skimmers, -2 penalties, so there's 5s to hit. So the first one's miss, and the next one also misses. So they were firing their missile launchers out at those guys from inside the buildings. And of course, they all missed. Now those tanks are probably going to rip me up. But just for sake of argument, since, hey, look, I have you and you're a captive audience, right? These guys instead decide to move behind the building. And what are they going to do there? They're going to shoot at it. Now, buildings do not have active countermeasures. So I'm going to whip myself around here. So the buildings are hit on 2+. So there you go. There's 3 hits. All right, there's 3 hits on that building. Its armor value is 6. The strength of the weapon is 11. So on 2+, they damage that building. All right. So here is 2 regular hits, and this is does an extra point of damage. So it's a total of 4 damage here. But these things have what's called demolition on them. So basically, I just did 8 points of damage to this building, because basically it's a demolition 2, which means I just times by 2. So doing 8 points of damage to that building, which by the way, the building only has 20 damage points. So I would mark that somehow. Now the cool thing is now I roll, because there's damage being done to the building. Hey, there's stuff falling everywhere. There's explosions going on. I roll, and on 5+, there were 3. There was 3 damage done inside. So we damage one of. So the guys took some damage in there. 3 guys died to the building being basically ripped apart. Now, if that building is destroyed, the objective goes away along with the guys inside of it, and any tanks within an inch. So I think the guys outside might have a die to roll, but regardless, you do not want to be inside the building when it gets blown up. So what that does is puts pressure on the UCM, knowing that this building is almost half destroyed, and they may not want to be in that building much longer. They may want to find that objective and get out. So unless those tanks can be dealt with, they have an opportunity to really wreck that building very quickly, especially if there was more things on the board that could come out and hurt it. So regardless, that's a quick overview. You do get to close combat if guys go in there. Hey, there's a big battle inside. A lot of dice are rolled. Guys die. Guys run out. You always want to protect your drop ships that are carrying your troops, because only the drop ships that are carrying the squads that they have can go back into that drop ship. It is through cards, through your command cards. You are able to get more drop ships in case you lose one. But you always want to protect this baby because it's important. If you lose it, it means that it's going to be hard to get off the board. It means that you're just going to be able to hold the objective, or you're going to be in this thing running like a bat out of hell and hoping that you make it. So anyhow, that's a pretty much overview of the game. I love the game so far. This is just a quick couple of rounds. There's flyers which come in and zoom in really fast with interceptors that also do that in kind of its own little sub-game. You can bomb buildings with those fast-moving flyers. So there's also artillery and just a lot more things in this game that we have not talked about. You know, jumping into buildings through the roof with special ops forces, sniper teams. So there's a ton in this game. It's a wonderful game. I've got to get these models painted and get more games in. So anyhow, this is Fate 212, and I'm Nafka, and that's a brief look at Dropzone Commander.